Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm Kristen Kurtz, your host. I pray this episode is like a holy IV of hope for your soul. Please help me welcome Dustin Kleinschmidt to the show. I'm so excited to have him here today. I think I said his name right because I was like, I want to make sure we get this right. Did I do a good job?
You did, Kristen. You got it. You
Yay,
got it right.
awesome. Okay, so catch this. You guys who've listened to me or know me well, you know that I love like wild ones, wild things, wilderness, because wild is the beginning part of wilderness. So he comes on Zoom and I see his hat right away. And if you can see it, those of you who are listening in, you cannot see what his hat says. Well, can you tell us a little bit about the hat before we even
Yeah,
get into who you are and what you're doing?
totally. Yeah, the hat says Wild Days and it's upside down because that's what all the cool kids are doing now. They flip their hats upside down, or the wording, I should say. And yeah, it was so the book I wrote was called The Wilderness Way, which we'll get into the kind of the heartbeat behind that. And
Yeah.
then I've been a musician for a long time. And so I started actually kind of as a fun side project, started writing and recording worship songs
Mhm.
and pulling older songs that I had written years ago and kind of redoing them, reinventing them, and ended up calling that worship album that just came out In Wild Days, kind of as a derivative of the book. But yeah, because we live in wild days, like life is wild,
Yeah.
and I love conversations around how do we navigate the complexity and craziness of the world and not feel the need to be so binary, like it's either good or bad, but
Mm.
it can be both good and bad at the same time. Like
Yeah.
life is that way, and
Yeah.
that's I think the journey. And so yeah, so In Wild Days is
I
all
love it.
about the idea that we live in wild days.
Yes, and can people get this hat from you as well?
Well, I'm going to send you a link.
Okay.
I don't. The funny thing is, all I did was go on Amazon and have them design it, so I can
Oh,
facilitate that.
okay.
Or the
Yeah,
beauty, you can get anything on Amazon. You can get
it's true. It's true.
groceries and a new hat and
Yeah,
tires for
groceries,
your
hat.
car all at
I
the
love
same
it.
time,
Well, I'm
delivered
like,
in by a drone in 48 hours.
yeah, the ideator in me is like, and you're an ideator as well,
Yep. Uh-huh.
as we've talked already. But I'm like, oh, he's got a merch store. He's got this. He's got
Yeah,
that.
I'm actually not that sophisticated when it came to
Okay.
that. I should have. Maybe I should have.
Well,
Hey, I'll give you a
that's an
piece. You can run
idea.
the merch store. We'll work out a
I mean,
program.
figure out something. Awesome. Well, before we get into your story, just tell us a little bit about you. Who has the Lord created you to be?
Yeah,
Not
that's a
just
great
you.
question.
We talked about being prior to
Yeah.
hitting record, but who has the Lord called you to be?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Well, one, I'm first and foremost, I am a follower of Jesus, and I am His masterpiece, created new in Him,
Hmm.
right? And that, like, anchoring myself in that identity that I don't have to perform for Him.
Hmm.
My God loves me and is not impressed with me, right? Like,
Good.
I,
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
I do impresses Him. He's just like, man, I just love you because you're
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and so and not the future version of me that I wish I was, but he loves me as I
Mm.
am, right? And so
Good. Yeah.
that's a lifelong journey, and that's something I probably constantly am working on, like
Yeah.
believing and owning. I spent a lot of time early in my faith, believing that Jesus died for my sins and saved me, and that God loved me in the general sense, but that He kind of lived perpetually disappointed in me
Mm.
because I was a knucklehead and I made dumb decisions and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until early college years where that really shifted, where the gospel really came to life in a new
Mm.
way.
Yeah.
And that Ephesians passage and Psalm 139 really kind of took root in my heart in a very new way. So first and foremost, that's who I am, is I am a beloved son
Yeah.
and child. And then I'm a husband to my wife, Stacy. We've been married for 27 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And she's a nurse, and we met in college, excuse
Okay.
me, in our college ministry. We were in the same high school ministry too, but me and my friends were shady to her. And so she didn't want anything to do with us. She was like, you guys are reckless. And it's not that we were committing misdemeanors, not felonies. Like we were mischievous. We weren't bad
Okay.
kids. We were just,
Yeah.
we were good kids trying to be as bad as we could without getting in too much trouble.
Kind of
So it
walking the
was,
line a little
yeah,
bit.
very much so. Like, how far can we put in church
Yeah.
terms? How far can you push the line, right? In a
Okay.
youth group.
So what would that be? Like, I'm just kind of curious, like what that
Oh,
mischievous
goodness.
would
There was a
be.
lot of teeping houses on weekends.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of teeping houses.
Okay.
A lot of, Good. Yeah, like we took we went and found a group of his boys went and found a bunch of toilets somehow like that were being thrown away
Yeah.
and put them all in our senior port or senior pastor's front yard, like just kind of laid them out in his front yard. So when he came up in the morning, he sees a bunch of toilets in his yard, which is super
Oh,
random. And I have no like,
right.
there's no logic or thought
Yeah.
process behind any of this. We went around after Christmas. You know how everyone puts their Christmas tree by their front in the front yard for the
Yeah.
trash man to pick up.
Yeah.
We collected about 70 of them. Now this wasn't just guys, but this guys and girls,
Okay.
and we put them. We built a Christmas tree lot on our youth pastor's front yard. And so he came out in the morning and there was like 75 Christmas trees standing up in his front yard. And the best part was he admitted later it took him months. He would have to basically take a tree to every neighbor's house for months for the trash to pick it up because he couldn't stack them all up in his front yard. So yeah, so it was that kind of stuff. Like we had a lot of fun being
Yeah.
goofballs.
Yeah. Wow.
And like I said, there were probably some boundaries pushed. And
Yeah.
in today's culture, we would have been detained multiple times by
Yeah.
police. But
Right.
in our era, it was a little more feral and a little more free
Yeah.
range. And
Right.
so,
Right.
yeah, we had a lot of
Wow,
fun.
that is funny. Toilets and trees. That could be
Oh, yeah. We
a
could do
whole
two
thing.
podcasts just on all the
I
stupid things that
mean,
I did. It's
yeah,
absurd.
I'm similar, but I didn't do that. There was other things that we did. So we won't go down
Yeah.
that road because this
Yeah.
is
Right.
about
Okay.
you today.
Yeah. No, I get it. So, yeah.
I'm
So, my
curious.
husband, oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
But I was just gonna say, who was the instigator in all of these ideas? Like, who came up with the toilet and then the tree? Was there a specific person that was like, I've got this idea?
No, well, probably. I mean, that's a long time ago. There was a lot of group think. It's like you get enough teenage boys together, and the lowest common denominator drops pretty
Okay.
dramatically.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
it
so
wasn't
we,
you. We'll just say it wasn't you that
not
came up with it.
necessarily. I was happy to participate,
Yeah.
100%. I was probably the kid. So if you had like two halves of our group of guys
Mhm.
in this, so this is the youth group I became a Christian in high school.
Yeah.
And so one half of the group of guys, I mean, all of them were church. I didn't grow up in the church. I became a Christian in high school. So it was like I kind of entered into this world that existed. You
Yeah.
know, one half of the group of guys went into ministry, like planted churches, became pastors.
Wow.
The other half of the group of guys had some, challenges with addiction and other things like that. And
Yeah.
so it was really interesting. Me and a couple of my friends were kind of in that middle group where it's like we were really close with the guys on the edgier side, and
Yeah.
we were really close with the guys who were on the more
Yeah.
straight and narrow, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
And so we kind of played with both. And it was interesting as high school went on how they began to diverge.
Mm.
The groups shifted because as,
Yeah.
these kids stopped going to youth group, and you just kind of develop a thing. But we were kind of the middle ground ones. I
Mm.
was the one, this is all before phone, internet
Yeah.
stuff. So, we would meet in a parking lot. There was a place called Penguin's Yogurt. And so we would meet in a parking lot on a Friday night. Everyone would kind of
Yeah.
get there. And then there would be an hour long discussion about where we were going to go or what we were going to do, which drove me insane because I'm like, let's just
Yeah.
make a decision and go.
Yeah.
And so finally I'd be like about 45 minutes in and I'd be like, look, I'm going to a movie. Like, I don't care what you guys do. And you can follow me. You can stay here. I don't care. I'm going to a movie. And
Yeah.
so I and like three friends would leave, and inevitably everyone would follow and we would go to the movie.
Yeah.
So I led more so out of my own impatience
Okay.
than
Okay.
than being kind of the out front guy that was like,
Okay.
we're gonna go do this. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't rallying the troops. I was getting tired of the
Okay.
troops.
Okay. So that's kind of it's you've seen this throughout maybe your life a little bit as well.
Yes, very much so. Yeah,
Okay.
we talked offline a little bit about I have
Yeah.
a contrarian streak in me.
Yes. Yes.
Very much can see,
Yes.
and a lot of it is there's probably some hyper vigilance in there and some protective stuff from childhood
Mm.
trauma type things. But I have this ability
Yeah.
to read things and go like, that's a great idea, but I could see the seven things that are going to go wrong before we get there.
Right. I
Um,
feel like it's such a gift, right?
it is,
Um,
it
if
really
people
is. It's about,
understand when
and how
people
you exercise it, right?
right,
Like
right.
I think the younger version of Dustin would be like, "You're stupid," and
Mm.
like
That's
the maturing, softer version of me is
yeah.
like, "Hey, that's a really cool idea. What are you seeing in that? What potentially could go wrong?" Like
Yeah.
learning curiosity and questions was a
Yeah.
huge part of me learning how to
Yeah.
navigate that world, even though I would have never made a great counselor because in counseling, you're primarily trying to help people discover for themselves, which you do in coaching too. But
Yeah. Yeah.
there is a part of me that just wants to say, hey, we could shorten this by 45 minutes if you just let me tell you what's wrong. Like I can give you three
Which,
things. We can
yeah.
move on.
Yeah. I call
So
that ninja coaching.
yes,
Like,
we cut
yeah,
to the chase.
I love it. Well, yeah, so you said your husband, you've been married
Yes,
27 years and you
yes.
have kids.
We have three kids. We have two
Okay.
boys, 23 and 20,
Okay.
and then one daughter who's 14.
Oh, wow.
So she's gotten the experience of being both having siblings and functionally being an only child.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
our oldest has moved out. He lives about 20 minutes away with
Okay.
some roommates and works at a restaurant and is doing his thing. Our middle one lives at home still and is
Okay.
doing college for computer science.
Oh, wow.
And our daughter she's starting high school in the fall. So she's in full high school mode, getting ready,
Wow.
hanging out with her friends, playing volleyball, all the things.
It's wild how quick they grow up, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is. It's pretty
Like
cool.
it's amazing. Wow. Well, I would love for you to share more about, we talked a little bit about your youth. So you went
Hmm.
from youth, now we hear where you're at now, but tell us a little bit more of the in between.
Yeah, so like I said, so I did. I came to faith in high school. A friend of mine started inviting me to his youth group. I said no. He kept going. I kept saying no. He then invited me to go to an amusement park called Six Flags Magic Mountain in the Los Angeles area.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he added on to that he was dating a girl who had a friend, and so I was like, hey, I'm in.
There you go.
I love Magic Mountain and I like girls, so we
Yeah.
got it. Like we're
There you
here.
go.
And
Yeah.
so I went and I really I had grown up in a with a stepdad who was abusive, and then my mom and I moved out, and it was just her and I through
Oh,
middle school. And then when I started high school, my freshman year of high school is when this guy Tim and I connected.
okay.
And I found in that youth group, like that first night I went and instantly found this community that I had lacked in my life. I had friends, but never had really experienced a community. And then had a small group leader, this guy Steve, who was with those knuckleheaded boys that we talked about from freshman year through senior year. His
Oh,
wife
wow.
discipled all the girls in that same age group. They stayed through us all 4 years with another couple that helped them, and they just discipled the heck out of us. They loved us well. They took us on trips. We would go camping. We would do small group. The guys would do small group at 6:30 a.m. on Monday mornings at his house. So think about a
Really?
bunch of high school boys. Like the worst time you could ever do small group would be
Yeah.
6:30 a.m. on a Monday morning. And Steve would always say, look, my door will be open and I'll be here with my Bible. And if you guys don't show up, I'll do my quiet times and I'll go to the office. And
Wow.
we would show up often. There would be 15 or 20 of us to drag our butts in this front door. Some of us wearing boxer shorts and not much else. And just, it was a mess. We
That's
probably
amazing.
smelled.
Yeah.
But we had real conversations and real investment and
Okay.
like, what does it look like to love Jesus in the real life?
Mm,
And let's talk about real things. We're not going to gloss over lust, and we're not going to gloss over girls, and
yeah.
we're not going to gloss over honoring. And so we just did all those things. And so it became immediately normative for me.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that wasn't normative in most churches because I had no context. It's the only church
Yeah.
I'd ever been
Right.
to.
Right.
So I had no idea that level of discipleship had been so consistent. So
Wow.
immediately I was in, actually gave my life to Jesus within a couple months. And then was all the way in, like part of the group, helping and serving where I could. As we kind of talked about a little offline, I'm not a
Yeah.
good observer of things. Like I want to be in it. I want to help. I want to
Yeah.
participate. So
Yeah.
it was like, hey, you want to help video? Sure, I can figure that out. You want to help mix sound? Sure, and then pick up a guitar. And
Yeah.
so it was always just there and
Yeah.
invested. So by the time I got into college, I was really integrated in. Didn't know where I was going to go with my life. Didn't really have any plans. Had started playing guitar and really kind of cultivating that. Moved in with our college pastor. He and I became roommates,
Okay.
which is where I ended up meeting my wife. Really was in that college ministry.
Mhm.
And the joke is I knew 4 chords and he knew 3 chords, and so that made me the worship guy. And
Oh,
so
there you go.
I was clunking through worship songs, and we were trying to we were
Wow.
cultivating this community again, finding this really good community, really good mentorship and good discipleship. And
Mm.
yeah, we just saw God do amazing things through campus ministries and pouring ourselves into one another. And in the midst of that, I got pretty darn good at guitar and okay at singing, started
Okay.
writing songs kind of for fun.
Wow.
And that turned into a whole pursuit of a career in music, started a band, started playing the Hollywood club scene,
Wow.
had to invite all my friends, come see us play on Tuesday night. Would you guys come play, see,
Yeah. Yeah.
every week. And, ended up with a record deal out of that from a small record company in LA.
Okay.
And we never were able to get it over the hump. We
Right.
tried, but it just never was, it was never going to become the thing we wanted it to be. And I
Hmm.
was actually on stage in a club in Hollywood. The club was called the Coconut Teaser. And it was like the Lord was like, okay, you're done. Like almost audible in the middle of a show. Like I'm on stage. I still can visualize the moment being on stage, 30 years later almost. And it was like, okay, you're done. And I remember in my head going like, done with this song. I don't know what you mean. Like I'm confused. Like, I don't know what to do. And so
Yeah.
we finished that show and it wasn't bad. Everything was going fine.
Yeah.
I was working as an intern at the church at the time, like helping out with different things to kind of pay my bills while I was pursuing the music thing, living
Yeah.
with my roommate, kind of like, that kind of thing. And so I went back to my roommate, Dave, who by then was no longer just the college pastor, but he was overseeing all of student ministries. So
Okay.
really, it's a relatively large church, definitely by Los Angeles standards.
Hmm.
And I just told him, I said, hey, I think I'm done trying to be a rock star. And he's like, really? He's like, that's interesting. He's like, I've been thinking about a position at the church of a full-time student ministries worship pastor. And he's like, I thought of you. He's like, but you've kind of been chasing this other thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we talked about it and prayed about it and pitched it to the elders. And lo and behold, they signed off. We did not think they were going to say yes because
Really?
I hadn't finished a college degree. Didn't even have a formal music degree, let alone a theology degree or even my associate arts in anything yet.
Okay. Now,
Um,
were they looking like do you feel like they were looking for somebody who had kind of the titles behind their name in essence?
no, I think what it was is the idea was so no one had ever done it. Like we talked to all these other churches that we knew, like, hey, you have anyone that has done this student ministries worship? Because the goal was we wanted to start an academy to train students music, like because we have a bunch of kids who are taking music lessons, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
instead of teaching them Mary Had a Little Lamb, what if we use the worship songs that they love so much and that they sing on in
Okay.
youth group?
Yeah.
And in addition, we can train them in a theology of worship, like what is worship? You talked about Romans 12:2. Romans
Yeah.
12:1 and 2 is our
Hmm.
core passages of what a life of worship looks like.
Hmm.
And so really develop that culture in middle school age students. And then in high school, we wanted to help them develop into student bands that could then lead worship in the different areas of the church, from kids ministry to main services. And so we basically built a farm league. And so partnered with a couple other like kids that I knew who were music majors,
Okay.
and we developed this program, and for 7 years, that's what we did is we built this thing. And some of those kids that were in middle school then are still leading worship at that church today, and they have their own families and are doing their own careers, but they still play at that same church. In fact, the girl, she was a college student when we started it, who was probably my most close partner in it, like developing. She's an amazing vocalist, and she really did a lot of the vocal training stuff. She's the worship pastor there. She's been the worship pastor there for probably 10 years now.
Amazing.
So it was like
Like,
this
and you
really,
see, like, you look back and it's like it's like from Tim to Steve
mm-hmm,
to Dave, right? To
yep,
like
to Dave.
all these
Mm-hmm.
people that invited you into something and you said yes. And then, like, it's so cool to look at that, like the ripple effect
Yeah.
of your yes, right?
Yes,
Isn't that
absolutely.
amazing?
And it was like, but it was never like an aspiration. It wasn't like, I'm going to go into ministry and then I'm going
Right.
to, it was the
Right.
Lord like literally
Like,
getting me to trip and fall backwards into it.
yeah.
And then wake up one morning and go, oh my gosh, am I a pastor? Like, is that really?
Did you
That
say
seems
that one
weird.
day?
Oh,
Did you
absolutely. I
actually?
hated it. I hated being calling a pastor.
Okay.
It
So
it
people
was such an
actually called you a pastor.
Yeah, even then. I mean, I think they started me as director
Okay.
because, and then over time, I did the theological education. Like I
You
backfilled
did.
a lot of
Okay.
the things that I hadn't done
Okay.
because as I matured and then you're like, okay, well, like I'm going to help teach a little bit and I'm going to help with small groups a little bit. And so at some point you're like, I need a more firm foundation in all of this. And so, so I did that. And then when the economy changed in 2009, my position was cut. And, because of all the housing market stuff. And so, by
Yeah.
then we have two boys, we own a house. My wife's a full-time nurse. We're settled. And all of a sudden it's like, wait, what? Like we're going to uproot everything. We've
Yeah.
only ever known California. And I remember telling Stacy, my wife, I just said, look, I'll never force you to move anywhere. Like if God can tell me where we're supposed to go, he can tell you. Like I don't.
Yeah.
And it was almost a 2 year process of praying and interviewing. And ultimately, crazy story. I had reached out to a friend in Texas, in a suburb of Texas,
Mhm.
about another role at another church in that area, and
Oh,
just called him and said, hey, like, cause I knew they had planted a church in that area. And I said, hey, do you know anything about this other church? I'm kind of trying to get a feel for it. And he's like, let me check it out. I'll get back to you. And
mhm.
he literally walked from that phone call into a meeting with his then worship guy. And the guy's like, hey, I'm going to resign. I'm going to go be a Dallas firefighter. And so he calls me back and is like, hey, what were they going to offer you? And I'm like, why are you asking? And so it was like kind of this crazy, like we saw God suddenly kind of go like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm in this. And that was one of the things we wanted practical things, like a place where we felt like we could raise our family, and
Mhm.
a place we could call home and all those things. But it was also like we wanted a clear sense that God supernaturally was orchestrating something,
Yeah.
that we couldn't force. Cause
Like
I'm
you can't
pretty,
make it up, right?
totally, because I'm
Like,
pretty good at making things happen for myself. And I didn't want to look back and go, oh, maybe that was me. And
mm-hmm.
so that phone call led to flying out there, spending some time. I had known most of the team that had planted that church because it was from a church near ours in LA that planted
Okay.
in this part of Texas. And so yeah, we transitioned out. It was really hard for my wife. She really struggled, moving away from family, moving away from mountains and beaches,
All the things.
all the
I grew up
things,
in
right?
California too, so I,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
um, I was more excited because it was something new and different. I was going to be doing worship and discipleship for the whole church.
Oh,
So now
wow.
I'm out of kind of the youth ministry thing, and I'm in more of like the whole story.
Yeah.
And I was really excited about that. And so I jumped into that, and for 7 years was really invested in that church. Started to have some challenges with the senior leader.
Mhm.
Some of who I thought he was didn't kind of come to fruition, and there was some leadership quirks and concerns, and
Mhm.
quickly realized that we were gonna butt heads a fair amount. I would bring something to his attention, and at times he would basically say, hey, if I want your opinion, I'll tell it to you. And I was like, okay, this isn't good. But really sensed the Lord was saying, and I remember going back to my wife and being like, I don't know if we're going to be here forever. And she's like, are you kidding me? Like, we move across the country and now you're saying this isn't the final landing spot.
But this was after like 7 years that this was starting to happen, right?
It actually started happening about 2 years in.
Oh, 2 years in.
Yeah,
Okay.
a year and a half in, I started to really get unsettled. But as we prayed about it, the Lord was like, he's like, you stay faithful and you trust me with him. To which my response was, well, that's a really dumb idea.
I love the
Because
honesty. We have to be honest with God, right? I
I,
mean, I do
it's
that all
a,
the time. I'm like, really?
yes, it is
What?
a regular conversation with me and God for him to
Yeah.
say, I want you to do this, and me to go, no, that's a dumb idea. I don't think they should do that at all.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and we've just developed, and he's thought it was cute. But
Yeah.
he gave me kind of the picture of Moses and Aaron. He's like, your job is to be Aaron, like you hold up his arm best you can.
Yeah.
And so did that for another 5 6 years, really. And it was challenging, it was very difficult, but tried my best to stay in my lane, to support him best I could, and at
Mhm.
the same time just cultivate. By then we had handed off the worship stuff because the church was growing really fast,
Okay.
and someone else was doing that, and I was really focused on small groups and discipleship, and how do we grow up in Christ, how do we help our people get in community, grow up in Christ, those kinds of things. And so focused on that, and then ultimately it led to us planting a church about 30 minutes away.
Okay.
And it was a way for me, like we did pray and really felt like God was saying, hey, this is where I want you to head.
Hmm.
um, and at the same time, it was a way, like a way for us to step away from that church and not
Hmm.
have it be combative or any dissension.
Yeah.
And I think for him, it was an easy way to be like, to kind of move me along and not have it be a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So, and in hindsight, which you'll hear about in a second, it was a way of protecting me from what I didn't know was coming in a
Oh,
way. So
okay.
we moved about 30 minutes away, 30 minutes away to a town with about 12 other couples. And we started a church in Murphy, Texas, where we live today,
Okay.
which is like a suburb of the Dallas area near Plano. And yeah, we just did all the things, like started in my living room. My daughter's room was the nursery, and
Oh,
our upstairs media room area was kids ministry. And
oh,
we just started investing in our neighbors and loving people and trying to show them our area specifically is about 22% Muslim. So it was a
oh,
high concentration of non-Christians, which is part of what we were like, hey, it'd be really cool to go someplace where people actually don't know Jesus. Because
great.
if you've ever been to the Bible Belt, you can't throw a rock and not hit a church. And you really don't even need a good arm.
I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you don't even need a good arm. You can just
Yeah.
it's
Everywhere.
very different than LA.
Okay.
So we did. We just started investing in our community, moved into a middle school near us after about 6 months or so,
Oh, wow.
did the whole setup, tear down,
Yeah.
like exhausting,
Yeah.
wearing out. My one of my sons was the slide guy, the other son would mix sound. Like it was
Oh,
it was
just
whole family,
on your
everyone's
own.
involved. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And we did that for almost 3 years, and then COVID hit.
Okay.
And that was like, one, it was kind of a nice reset because we moved everything
Mm,
back into some homes. We split up in between multiple homes so that we could still gather, but not like have everyone in one space to try and honor that what was going on.
mm,
And yeah, we did that for almost a year. And in that, our leadership team started really wrestling with, like, this will be a full restart on the backside. And do we want to ask our people to do the same level of sacrifice that they just did,
mm,
to their family, to their
mm,
relationships? Because it's a lot when you ask people, be a good husband and dad or wife, be a good parent, work your
mm,
full time job. Oh, and
mm,
if you could also help me lead a small group, and if you could come on Sundays and set up and tear down, and we,
mm.
we want to love our neighbors well, so we're going to serve at this event and this thing and this thing. It's a
Yeah.
lot for a
A
small
lot
group.
of time.
And we just decided ultimately it wasn't worth what it would cost. And we would rather have people walking with Jesus than have this thing called Cornerstone Church Murphy,
Okay.
and prayed about it and decided to let it go.
Wow.
And in the midst of all that, the church I had come from, that senior pastor had resigned due to burnout, was the original statement. Turned out he had been having an affair, and that church really imploded. And it was interesting parallel timing wise, about 6 months before, right as COVID was hitting, was when all that happened. And so I had heard about it, but had been contacting friends and praying for him and just saying, I'm really sorry you're walking through this. And a lot of
Yeah.
the things I had been struggling with suddenly made a lot of sense. And so you're in
Yeah.
this weird space.
Yeah. Like that tension of like,
Yeah, I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't tell what. And it wasn't that he was having the affair back when I was there, but the unhealthy patterns that led to it were already in place.
okay.
And the affair in many ways was just a symptom of much deeper issues.
Hmm.
And so as we were shutting down the church plant and in communication with them, their leadership that was left, because a bunch of their elders resigned, said, hey,
Yeah.
would you be willing to come back and help us kind of rebuild?
Wow.
And we knew it was going to be messy because by then the church is, upwards of 1,000 people. They had just built a building. Um, it's the
Oh,
backside of COVID. People are hurt. People are scared,
hmm.
um, very untrusting, right? Of
Hmm.
anyone who had been in and around that ecosystem.
Right.
There's a lot of clamoring for power vacuums going on. So all the things that you could expect are happening.
Yeah.
And originally, I went back just to kind of consult a little bit and help them kind of think through how they could reorient.
Yeah.
And that led to them saying, hey, would you come back and be one of our lead guys? And we prayed and ultimately decided to say yes, though we knew it was going to be hard. And that I lasted 3 years is the way
Okay.
I could describe it. So
Yeah.
my key card hadn't even swiped the door once before just chaos ensued,
Really?
in terms of a bunch of things. You've got a disgruntled elder who wanted that job, that was, the other leaders were like, no, we don't think you're the right fit. So he throws his hissy fit and takes 50 people and goes and plants a church. And, budget, we have this brand new building, which is costing 20 grand a month or whatever the mortgage was. And people are leaving the church because of all that's going on. And I'm coming in there like, well, is he just here to take over? Is he just like the old, like, so
Yeah.
it just
Oh,
shows you
wow.
that, it shows you the impact of sin in
Mhm.
situations. It's never just the person, like the ripple effects
Yeah.
are dramatic.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I came in and was really like, okay, how do we start to build health in this? Because it was a very
Mm-hmm.
unhealthy leadership environment, ministry environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we needed to kind of reorient it completely.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did that. We put our best faithful effort in. We stayed in Murphy. We didn't move back. So we were commuting in and out.
Okay. And how
Because our
far of a
kid,
drive was that for you?
about 30 minutes or so. And ultimately, the plan would have been to move back because I had a conviction that if we were long term going to be there, I wanted to live in the community where I was pastoring, and that would make sense.
Right.
But
Right.
luckily, the Lord kept us from doing that.
Okay.
Um, and I write about it in the book, but basically, yeah, it was just conflict after conflict, having to let go of staff because of budget cuts and having to move people out of roles because they just didn't fit the roles and confronting
Mm-hmm.
unhealth and,
Yeah.
trying to move slow enough to where you're not jerking the wheel for this church.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing that, so if you move too fast, people complain that you're moving too fast and that it's abrupt. When you move too slow, you have people that are like, why aren't you moving faster?
Right. So
And
either way.
yeah, and so I was literally this is in chapter one of the book. I'm literally in an elders meeting, and I have two young leaders sitting there that kind of crashed the meeting,
Okay.
and so we have like three elders plus me, and then a couple elders in training that because we had been working to develop a new elder group, and we needed better leadership, and these two guys are sitting there basically going around the room telling us why they think that we're all horrible leaders and they don't want to follow us anymore. I'm like, what? What's going on? And I remember and I watched a couple of the elders start to kind of fold because they were fatigued too. They had won through the same thing. Like they'd the snot beat out of them as well. And well, one of them was like, "Well, what do you think we should do?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And ultimately, I left that meeting and I'm going, "Okay, so these two guys who were beloved and did a great job in their roles on staff, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, if they say they can't follow our leadership, then either we go or they go."
Right.
Right. Like, so now,
Right.
I'm faced with the decision. Do I fire these guys?
Right.
And then if I fire them, I know enough about the culture to know we're not going to get up front and go, let me tell you what happened at this meeting. We're going to be gracious and we're going to say, hey, we've decided to move them on.
Yeah.
But when you're unclear, then that just creates more, well, what really happened? And oh, he was a threat. And so I
Mm-hmm.
just saw it. Like I looked forward and said, oh, this is gonna stink to high heaven. This is not gonna go well.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
remember calling my wife and just saying, I just don't see a way forward. I don't think I can do this anymore.
Mm.
And we prayed about it for a couple of weeks, and I gave my resignation at the end of 2023, and
Wow.
was like, okay, I can't. I'm done. I told him in my resignation, I said, look, I've spent 3 years fighting for you, or
Mm.
I've spent 3 years fighting with you, and so I can no longer fight for you.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
just, yeah. After
And
25 years in vocational ministry, I was like, I was so worn out and beat up. I was done.
yeah. So I can see obviously the name of your book came out of this. Could you share the name of your book that
Yes.
you wrote?
The
And I would love to hear, you wrote songs and prior to writing a book, had you thought you'd ever write a book? Did you ever think you'd have a book that would be launching? And then like first share the name of the book and then tell us a little bit more, even that book process too.
Yeah. So the book is called The Wilderness Way: Finding Freedoms in Life's Fractures. And
Hmm.
no, again, the Lord leading me backwards into things. I didn't set out to write a book, and I'd written, obviously I'd written messages and I'd written
Yeah,
booklets and stuff over the years, and
right.
so I love the exercise of writing, but never with like, hey, I'm going to write this thing and publish it. And in fact, the book itself started as just me journaling and wrestling through everything I was going through. Because when I left the church, when I resigned, I thought like, okay, I'm going to get a big deep breath. And
Yeah.
I didn't get that. I actually, for the first time in my life, started having panic attacks. Had never
Really?
had them
Like
before.
right after you left in 2023?
3 months after resigning, I had my first panic attack
Wow.
while visiting
Can
another
I
church.
just ask you, like, if
Yeah.
somebody's listening in and maybe they've never experienced what that is, and what is that experience like? What does that look like?
It was so for me, and it's different for everyone experiences things differently.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, there was a trigger moment that was very innocuous. Like it should not have triggered what it did,
Mm-hmm.
but instantly, like my stomach was in tight knots. Like I stitch in my side, late, like shallow breathing, couldn't get a full breath.
Okay.
And like, it almost feels like like the best way I can describe it is it feels like someone's squeezing your heart. Like if someone was grabbing your heart and pushing on it, they weren't
Mhm.
killing it, but they were just making it really
Like
hard for it
squeezing
to,
it, just
yeah.
compression.
And so that was this sensation. And again, like I've never had this in my life. And so
Um,
all of a sudden I'm like, what in the heck? And so we get in the car to drive home from this church where this is starting. Like I feel my brain, my mind spiraling and, shame triggers and all these things are going on. And I look at my wife and I'm like, I think I need to call somebody. And a friend of mine, coincidentally, had recently suggested to me a counselor that he had started seeing who had been in ministry, had been a missionary. And I had seen counselors in the past, but I had always struggled finding a counselor that was direct enough and strong enough to handle my personality
yeah.
because I'm not a pushover and I like direct challenge and they also most counselors didn't understand the dynamics of ministry. They just hadn't been in vocational ministry.
Mhm.
And so while we're driving home, as I'm kind of trying to reset myself, I messaged this guy. He was on vacation and he called me and he's like, let's talk. And kind of told him what I was going through. He's like, okay, I'll be back in the office next week. Let's start meeting. And
Um,
so I did. I started meeting with him. And um, that began this journey of like, oh, there's more going on here than just my resignation. That
mm,
that there was deep childhood trauma, stories that I believed about myself, stories that I believed about God, which I talk about in the book, which I'll explain in a second. All these things that were going on that kind of all collided
mm.
in one moment and then became kind of like it's imagine like if something explodes and then it starts to ripple out. So it was like that was the
So, like kind of
explosion
like
moment.
shrapnel was kind of coming out.
And then all the shrapnel, now I've got to start navigating all the shrapnel. And that's really what the next 2 years was and really the process of the book. So in the
Mm,
midst of all this, I had been reading through the Exodus narrative. And what you have in Exodus is, Israel is rescued from slavery to Egypt
mhm,
and they're told about a promised land.
mhm,
And then they spend 40 years in the wilderness.
mhm,
Now, you can say, yes, that 40 years is a direct result of their disobedience. Absolutely.
mhm,
But it also is the place where God did all of this formative work, right?
mhm,
And so
mhm,
then I'm thinking about it in light of a follower of Jesus. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
mhm,
As a follower of Jesus, I've been rescued from slavery to sin and death. And one day, Revelation teaches us God's home will be among his people and he will wipe away every tear from their eye and there will be no more sorrow and a new
mhm,
Jerusalem will come down and there will be new heavens and new earth, right? But
mhm,
until that day, we live in the wilderness. And
mhm,
so I used to think of wilderness as I'm going through a wilderness season
mhm,
versus going, no, I actually think this whole already but not yet life is the wilderness.
mhm.
And it's always going to be a mix of beauty and brokenness.
That's so good.
And
Say
that
that again. I feel like
that
somebody needs to hear that again.
yes, so life is always going to be a mix of beauty and brokenness.
Hmm.
Um and and we all experience this in different ways. It's not even the big bigs and the low lows,
Hmm.
but it's just a reality. Like this last week in my life, really good friend of ours that we her their daughter mid 20s was sexually assaulted, like by an ex husband, like just horrific situation. Um, and then but we went out to dinner with them on Saturday after it happened because she's working through it and stuff, and we actually had fun and I watched her smile in the midst of so like this again she's it's
Attention.
yeah, there's a tension in life, right? Like you can sit on your patio on a beautiful sunny day and then as
Mhm.
soon as you start scrolling through what's going on in the news you're like ugh,
I
right?
know. Right. Yeah.
The world is wild.
It is
It is
wild.
messy.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely.
and and I think that what I realized about myself is that I had this subtle quid pro quo with God that I was really largely unaware of. It's one thing when you do something disobedient and you get a consequence for it, right? Like, okay, so I did this thing and I got in trouble and yeah, that's on me. His
Right.
grace is sufficient. His power is
Right.
made perfect in weakness.
Yeah.
Cool, move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a very destabilizing thing for me to go, wait a minute. I did what you told me to.
Yeah.
I went back to that church. I tried my best to honor him the best I could. I really cared. I really wasn't trying to control things. I really was trying to honor and serve people. I
Mhm.
really was sacrificing and giving. My family was sacrificing and giving. I was all
Mhm.
those things and and it didn't work out.
Mhm.
What the heck? So this is a very Job conversation, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And And I remember like praying and wrestling and having really honest conversations with God about this. And in essence, what I sensed him saying was, you are doing an awesome job articulating your disappointments to me, but you're not talking about your expectations. And every disappointment is built on an unmet expectation.
Mm,
And he was like, what are your expectations? And as I started to do the math, I'm like, oh, yeah, he never promised that if you're faithful, things work out.
yeah.
If that's true, then Jesus got a really raw deal because he was the
Right.
most faithful, and it
Perfect.
didn't work out.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Paul was a faithful guy, and yet he was in prison multiple times and beaten within an inch of his life. And
Hmm.
so it was this realization that I'd allowed this creep in my life of like, oh, I've started to believe that if I am a good boy and do the right things, God will bless me.
Yeah.
And although that is true at times, it is not exclusively true.
Mm,
And life is messy,
yeah.
and I need to become more comfortable in the mess.
Yeah.
And what it ultimately led to was a freedom in me. It didn't become fatalistic, like, life stinks and then you die.
Mm,
For me, what it became was, oh yeah, like wilderness happens. Like, so when I'm driving to work and I get a flat tire and I'm frustrated on the side of the road, it's like, huh, wilderness, right? Like the wilderness
yeah.
means there's
Wilderness.
nails on a road.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes your computer doesn't work. And
Right. Yeah.
right, like all of these
It's
things.
like consider it pure joy.
Yes,
Consider it. Just consider it.
pure
That's what I,
joy.
it's oh, how can I find joy in this, right?
Yes,
It's backwards. It feels upside
yes,
down, but there's that attention, pay attention to the tension, right?
yes, exactly. And what it was like, the biggest thing in it for me was when I was in a hard season, not just this one, but any hard season, my functional thought was, what do I have to do to get out of the hard season? How do I fix it? What do I get out?
That's
So
good.
all
Yeah.
of my effort and energy is going into resolving whatever the problem is.
Problem solver.
Yes. Instead of going, okay, God, where are you in the midst of this?
Hmm.
So imagine, like for me, it was like, imagine what would look different in my life if rather than trying to fix myself or fix the problem or get out of the tension or stop the pain,
Hmm.
my energy first went to, okay, God, where are you? What are you
Hmm.
doing? It says that he weeps with he's close to the brokenhearted. He's with us in the desert. He walked in Israel's situation. He was always with them in the wilderness.
Hmm.
He guided them, like he provided food for them. And so that reorientation was a freeing thing. One, it
Hmm.
allowed me to stop being surprised when life happens,
Yeah.
big and small, right? And two, it was like, okay, so where are you in this? Like,
Mhm.
how are you trying to grow me? I recently heard about Johnny Erickson Tada. I don't know if you heard or know of her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Love
she
her.
has a rule in her prayer life, which I've tried to adopt it. I think it's brilliant. It's an 80-20 rule. So
Mm.
she only allows herself to spend 20% of her time praying for the things that she wants or needs. 80% of her prayer life needs to be around, what is it you're wanting to teach me or show me? Which I
Mm.
thought is
That's
brilliant.
good. I'll write that
Yeah.
down.
And it was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. Because my compulsion is to come to God with my list of like, okay,
Yeah.
if you could fix this and help me with this and provide a little more income here and do this thing here and do that here and help me with that and everything.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Have a good day. I'll see you
Yeah.
later.
Like,
Right.
yeah.
And he's like, but
Yeah.
okay, like
Yeah.
talk to you later. But to say like, okay, like I want to sit in this and it's okay to sit in it. And it's okay. God wears big boy pants. I can be frustrated and not have answers and
Hmm.
not feel the need to resolve that. Right. Like I don't need to, what I talk about in the book called spiritual bypassing, which a guy named John Wellwood coined the term. And it's the idea of like, when we just paint a verse on something, like,
Hmm.
someone's in real pain and we're like, well, God works all things to the good. And
Yeah.
we almost try to
Your,
skip.
your
Yeah.
boots on.
Yeah. Rather than saying, that hurts too. And I'm sorry you're hurting. And I don't have an answer for you. And I wish I did, but I don't. But you know what I can do? I can sit here with you and I
Yeah.
can be uncomfortable with your discomfort. And that's okay.
Mhm.
And it's everything Job's friends first did
Yeah.
well until they started
And
trying to
they
figure it all
shifted.
out.
They got really shifty. I'm back in Job right now, actually.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm
Those
like,
guys were great when they were quiet.
they were. Yeah. And
And
I,
then as
it's
soon
like,
as they started trying to resolve why does
yeah,
Job suffering, it all goes sideways.
right. The problem solvers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but we can be like that too. Like I'm
100%.
naturally, even myself, like I'm a problem solver. So
Mm-hmm.
when these things happen, I came out of corporate 20 years in accounting. One plus
Mm-hmm.
one equals two, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in this wild life that we live, it's not like that.
Yeah. And again, it isn't that solving problems is a good thing, right? But it's more so, do I believe that by solving the problem somehow I'm going to feel more safe, more secure, more at
Mm,
peace? And the
good.
reality is no. Like that's
Yeah.
not the goal. So
Mm,
I should be trying to solve problems from a place of safety, security, and peace, not for safety, security, and peace.
that is the key right there.
Yes. And so learning to live from instead of for,
Mm,
and this goes back to our offline conversation about our identity and early on,
yeah.
right? Like identity in
Yeah.
Christ. Who am I? Okay.
Mhm.
Like I believe that God is fully loving and fully in control. And if you ask me why bad things happen, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Anyone that tells you they know is faking it. They don't know. But
Yeah.
we do know that God is fully loving, fully in control. And
Mm,
we live in a broken world. And
mm,
so it's going to be messy.
yeah.
And he's in the middle of the mess. And so for me, it has totally freed my heart in so many ways. Not that I don't fight it sometimes, but in many ways, he's freed my heart to just go, okay, God, like, what is it you want to teach me? And
Mm,
how can I be faithful and present to this moment, whatever this moment is,
yeah.
whether that's sitting at a volleyball practice with my daughter
Yeah.
or, having lunch with a friend or whatever. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what I'm doing. I just want to be faithful to those moments.
So good.
Um, and it's been a huge journey. And that's really the heart of the book and the music and all of that is helping people to not reconcile, but to wander life effectively and to be
Yeah.
present where they're at.
Yeah. To be a wanderer.
Hmm.
I think there's a on Jeeps, I've seen it a lot where it says not all who wander are lost. Have you
Exactly.
seen that
Yes.
quote? I love it. It's a favorite.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, tell us, I want to make sure that we capture, so you have a new album. If I like, I want to make sure we capture this. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about the album. Now,
Yeah.
I I like being surprised, so I didn't dig in, but have you had albums prior to this that have been out there?
No. Well, I mean, if
Like if you went digging back in
you might
the
find some
archives?
YouTube videos, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay. Okay. So this is new.
There's,
This is new.
yeah. So, back when I was doing the pop music thing, I had a bunch of stuff and we tried
Mhm.
to push it and go, and it
Yeah.
didn't take off. And this is pre-streaming era and stuff. And so I have copies of those CDs still, but
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
on
You're
any
like,
digital mediums,
yeah.
nor will they ever be.
Right.
Those are the early 2000s for a reason, and we're
Right.
no longer in the early
Right.
2000s.
Yep.
Um, but I also, while I was doing that, was writing worship songs, and we would perform them in that youth ministry, and we would sing them. And my rule back then was I didn't want anyone to know I wrote the song, so we would just introduce new songs, and they would just become part of the ecosystem.
Okay.
And about it was about 8 months ago. It was the book was almost done. I was writing the final stages, and I was kind of on a nostalgia kick, and so I was listening to old worship songs because I have them all in my iTunes library. I
Okay.
have live versions that we did and whatever else. And I was like, I started realizing, oh, a handful of these have this wilderness theme in them. That
Mm.
tension between beauty and brokenness, I had
Yeah.
been writing and singing about 25 years ago, but didn't realize
Yes.
it. And so it was this really interesting thing where I was like, one, lyrically, these songs aren't as bad as they are musically. Maybe they could get a little refresher course and we
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
modernize them.
Yeah.
And two, some of these themes really parallel what I've talked about in the book. And so it was kind of this funny, like, oh wow. And with the way that digital recording has adapted and relationships I have, I'm like, okay, I think I could start doing this. And it was literally just for fun. So I was originally going to do 2 or 3 songs
Yeah.
and just release them just kind of to do it. And so I did the 3 songs. And then while I was doing the 3 songs, I started having ideas of new songs. And so then all of a sudden a new song pops up and I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, again, me tripping and falling backwards into things.
Love it.
And so I don't like marketing. And so I didn't call it, Dustin Kleinschmidt's worship project.
Yeah.
What I developed is a thing called the Wilderness Worship Collective, which the hope is that it becomes a collective of artists who
Yeah.
all want to create honest worship that
Mm,
holds in tension God's deep love and sovereignty and honesty about how hard life is. Because sometimes I feel like Christian music can go either way. Like it can almost be a little Pollyanna-ish, and
mhm.
or it can be like really dark and no hope.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
Yeah.
what if we tried to kind of massage those two together? And so, yeah, so I spent some time and had some friends and we just kind of all pieced it together. I actually, ironically, I didn't sing on the album. I sang some of the backing parts and some of the scratch stuff,
Mhm.
but I don't like listening to my voice. And so I wanted to be able to listen to this album at the end of it. And so I'm like, I'm just not going to sing any of it. I'll let other people sing it. They have better voices than me.
Oh my
So we did.
goodness.
We just crafted it around that, and I may release some versions with my vocals on them at some point. I'm still kind of wrestling with that because I
I
haven't
can
sung in a long
encourage
time.
you to do that. Like,
It's on the radar.
release your sound. It'll give
It's
permission to other people.
true, and I mean it's not bad, but yeah, I think if I'm going to do it, someone else has to produce it because I will obsess about it versus letting it
Yeah,
like
just let
someone
it
else would
go.
look at me and go,
Let it,
"Hey, this
let it
is
go.
more than good enough," and I'm like, "No, it's
Right.
not."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It
but
just
it's
has to
been
get recorded and then put out there, and then it's like, ooh,
A hundred
surprise.
percent. 100%. Yeah. So it's
Wow.
been fun. And it's again, it's a creative outlet for me. You know, my wife loves that I'm playing guitar at the house again because I went a
Uh-huh.
long time, 10, 12 years not playing guitar. And so yeah, so it's been fun and it's another creative outlet and it's spurring on. It's funny, like the writing spurs, like the book writing or kind of the
Yeah.
article writing spurs on the music and the music spurs on. So there's a lot of like cross pollination in the
So,
thought
yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's called Wilderness Worship Collective. The song is called, or the album is called In Wild Days. I think it's 11
Wow.
tracks. It's out on all the major streaming platforms.
Mhm.
Or you can go to my website. It's the easiest way to find it. Because if you search it, if
Yeah.
you just search In Wild Days, there's probably 70 other artists
You
that
might
have
get some wild
higher
artists.
in the algorithm than me. So
Well,
it's a pretty specific link,
okay.
but yeah, it's been cool and people have given me great feedback, the ones who've listened to it, and it's been
Amazing.
fun.
Okay. And what's your website?
It's just my name, dustinkleinschmidt.com.
Okay. Will you spell your last name out loud so
Yeah,
people
it's
have that?
KLeinSchmidt.
Okay. Sounds good.
So,
I'll be
and if
sure to
you put
add
in the
to the
show
show
notes,
notes. Yep.
that'd be
We'll
great.
have
Yeah.
everything in the show notes. I'll have linked to, maybe what's your favorite streaming platform we could put in there.
Oh goodness. Either
You
Spotify
have
or
a
Apple
favorite?
Music are the two best.
We'll
Yeah.
do one of those.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I don't want to divide the room
We
by
don't want
declaring
to,
which of the two are my
I
favorites.
know. We don't,
Yeah.
exactly. We
That's
don't want
like
to cause
Mac and
problems
PC.
here
You don't want to
today.
have that argument.
Right. We don't want to have any division here. Well,
Yeah.
this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Before we end, I always love to ask one more question.
Hmm.
So, if you were just to imagine like the one who's listening in today, because that's why I do this, it's for the one.
Hmm.
What other like encouragement, any wisdom that you'd want to speak over this person?
Yes. And it's because I speak it over me all the
Mhm.
time. Psalm 37, verses 3 and 4. Trust in the Lord and do good, dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. Delight
Mhm.
yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. That idea, trust the Lord. So he's God, I'm not God, right? First and foremost. Do good, meaning be moral and like follow the rules and don't steal and don't lie and don't cheat and don't do all those things.
Yeah. Don't put
Dwell in
toilets
the
on your
land.
front yard.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Dwell in the land, meaning be where you're at.
Yeah.
You know, if you're future, don't be past focused or
Yeah.
fixated or future fixated. It's okay to look back. It's okay to look forward, but don't fixate. So
Mhm.
dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness, which is one of my favorite phrases. And it's the Hebrew term is this idea of making faithfulness your greatest companion.
Mm.
And so just that idea of like, I want to hear well done, good and faithful servant,
Mhm.
because in each moment of each day, I said, my goal is faithfulness. My desire is to be faithful to the Lord in all things.
Mhm.
And so that's my encouragement wherever anyone's at in their spiritual journey or in their life, like, um, your next first step is trust the Lord, do good, dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness.
So good. Thank you so much. This has been
Thank
so
you.
amazing. I'm going to close with Hope Unlocked anchoring verse. It's may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. And that's Romans 15:13. So thank you for being a brave voice who's setting so many free. I'll be back with another episode next week. Thanks, listeners.